This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And make sure to order Jamie Glazov's new critically acclaimed jihadist psychopath, how he is charming, seducing, and devouring us. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, 5 reasons Trump will win. With us this evening, Barry Nussbaum, the founder of the American Truth Project. Barry, what an honor and a privilege to have you on the Glazov Gang.
Jamie, it's such a thrill to be back with you again.
Fantastic. Now, Barry, we're going to get into the fact that you were actually a prophet the last election, and now you're making a prophecy about this election, so we really got to get your wisdom on this. Before we do, Barry, tell us all the exciting things you're doing at the American Truth Project and what it's about.
Well, thanks for the introduction and the opportunity to address your wonderful audience. I appreciate it. The American Truth Project is a 501c3. We're educational, and people that want to support our mission obviously can do it tax-free. We have 5 key issues, Jamie, that all relate to American security. We deal with terrorism abroad, jihadis. We deal with terrorism at home, homegrown terror. We deal with the relationship between the United States and our most crucial ally across the ocean, which is Israel. We deal with Middle Eastern policy and how it affects America. And then we deal with BDS and the anti-Semitism on American college campuses and homegrown here at home. So those are our 5 key issues, all as they relate to American security.
Fantastic. Now, Barry, I was doing some research on you and doing my homework. Incredible background. That probably needs to be a 2-hour show the next time. But just give our audience a little bit. You're, even to begin with, an exceptional businessman. Can you just give our audience a little idea of that particular part of your life?
Well, I've had 2 parallel careers since I got out of college. I was lucky enough, Jamie, to get a great education from one of the few colleges in America that respect, honor, and cherish American history and the civics that led to, well, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and that's how I was trained by constitutional scholars. And as my business career started, over 40 years in real estate and various businesses, both local and nationwide, I had a political career that literally went parallel at the same time. I started writing speeches in the 1970s and have been involved in political campaigns and plotting strategy that defends and protects and enhances American values literally since the late 70s.
Incredible story, incredible story. And Barry, you're also the son of survivors of the Holocaust, Eleanor and Emery Nussbaum. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my parents, like your parents, are foreign born. They were one of the few that were able to walk out of the gates of Auschwitz in 1945 when it was liberated by the Russian army. A great majority of the people that they grew up with, that they lived with, that they were related to, are in the ground in Auschwitz, Poland. My parents were Hungarian. They were rounded up. My father actually served in a slave labor camp in the Ukraine before he was able to escape and walk back to Hungary, only to be shortly thereafter deported to Auschwitz in late 1944.
And Barry, from that painful past, but of course there's some redemption there. We can use many different words, but there's been a confrontation with evil, and also from that experience, and also in my background with the Gulag in the background, we also know the good, and we develop an inspiration to fight, and we get that passion to fight for democracy and for America. Am I speaking for you a little bit too when I say that, where your passion comes from in terms of that background?
you're literally channeling my life story, Jamie. Like you, you with an Eastern European background, me with an Eastern European background. The people then didn't see the evil coming till the evil was knocking on the door.
Right.
As my mother used to say, they came from a very well-established, probably upper middle class background. And they thought the problem with the Nazis was over there in Poland. And my mother believed it right up till the Gestapo pulled up in their front yard and took away my grandfather, my grandmother, and my uncle, who died a few weeks later in Auschwitz. My motivation comes from wanting to educate, like you, our fellow patriots in America against the evil that is here. And just like my mother and father and grandparents didn't see it coming, there's so many people, Jamie, here in America that are, well, for want of a better term, asleep.
Absolutely, Barry. And I think that's a good hook and transition into now our main theme, because if people don't wake up and Trump doesn't win, that evil's going to take over here. I just want to mention one more thing before we give these, you're going to give your predictions of why Trump will win. Now, I've read, I've researched, you've met so many incredible people. I just want to ask you something quickly. Now, one of the great people, of course, you've met, maybe, I'm not sure if in person, but I know over the phone and the internet, et cetera, is a wonderful person called Annie Cyrus. So that's huge. But you've also met, if I'm not mistaken, the president of Israel, Perez, and you've also met Benjamin Netanyahu. Just a little bit from you on that. That's incredible.
The thing that impressed me the most about Netanyahu, and I was very privileged to spend, probably 4 hours with him in a very private setting, which we could talk about some other show because it's a long story. Because he came from a warrior background merged with a highly intellectual background, he's, a true Renaissance man, Jamie. This is a MIT scholar, a graduate of one of the best schools in the world, at the same time as he was an elite commando in the Israeli army. So he gets the intellectual side and he gets the warrior side. And he literally is leading the country on the front line against the terroristic hordes that, God forbid, ever get to our shore. Because what we have is our cherished way of life will not survive if they get here and get a bigger foothold than they're already starting to establish. That's my takeaway with Bibi Netanyahu.
Wow. So look, Barry, incredible background. You have so much wisdom, and we are praying that the wisdom you're using to make these predictions will be correct. Now, you also predicted in 2016 that Trump will win. And now you have 5 main reasons, although you maybe have many more, why Trump will win in 2020. Let us begin. Number 1, the first reason Trump will win, according to you, conservatives do not respond to polling even when they are contacted. So, I mean, I'll just begin with this. It even appeared to be the last time. Most of these people that are making the calls are leftists. People are afraid. So a lot of people are not admitting that they're going to vote for Trump. Is that part of the reason?
Well, yeah, that's the basic reason. And you've got to realize, and I think it's worth discussing, Jamie, there's a stigma in common society due to the incredible bias in the media. And when I say the media, almost the entire media, print, online, television, broadcast of any kind, newsletters, that if you are a Trump supporter, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're an Islamophobe, you hate women, you hate children, and literally, there's the puppy dog hatred of Trump supporters. So the fact of the matter is, and I've talked to lots and lots of people, and I've talked to pollsters, and that's a whole other issue. People don't want to admit something if it's going to give them nothing but aggravation. In other words, I don't need to tell you how I'm going to vote, Mr. Pollster, because I have the right to go into a polling booth and pull the curtain behind me and cast my secret ballot, which is why in 2016, I thought the polls were all wrong. And I had an interview, a very long one, with the leading pollster for the Republican Party in 2016 at his home in Beverly Hills. And he told me to my face, Barry, you're wrong. And I said to him, no, I think you are, because people don't want to be ridiculed and they don't want to be made fun of. And they feel it's none of your business how they're going to vote, which is why the polling in advance was wrong in 2016. And get this, Jamie, the exit polling where they stop you on the way to your car. Hi, excuse me, sir, who did you just vote for? The Republicans just kept walking and smiled. They knew who they voted for. And that's why every single network was announcing for Hillary Clinton within minutes of the polls closing, because the exit polls were confirming the pre-voting polls that Clinton would win in a landslide. Guess what? We have a secret ballot. Thank God it's a secret.
Wow. All right. All right. I'm getting more and more cheerful as we talk. Now, number two, Barry, it's a little bit connected, but a little bit more expanded on this. The number two reason is that conservatives are underpolled compared to Democrats. Now, what does that mean exactly?
That actually is a different issue. Mm-hmm. When you ask a question, there's two important things for pollsters. Number one, who are you asking? Number two, how are you asking? So if you poll disproportionately liberal, Democrat, registered voters out of proportion to Republican, conservative registered voters, well, you know numerically the chances are it will skew to the left, right? If you're not, and I don't mean that right conservative, I mean correct, because quite simply put, Jamie, you're asking people that have made up their mind, you know what they're going to say, they're predisposed, and if they don't do 50-50 or unaffiliateds on an equal percentage, what you end up with is, well, you've predetermined the outcome. The second thing is, if I was to ask you, and I was a pollster, many people say, Jamie, that Donald Trump is a misogynist, he's a womanizer, he hates black people, he hates short people, he hates foreign people, he hates Islamic people, and he hates the American worker. Are you going to vote for him anyway, Jamie? Well, at that point, that question is so filled with bias, and obviously I exaggerated a little bit, but your inclination would be, I don't want any part of this. No, I'm not voting for him, click. Right? So the way you ask the question predisposes your answer in the direction or under the inclination of the bias of the pollster. And the problem is the majority of pollsters in America lean to the left, no different than the media.
Right. Incredible how the left/evil works. Number three, Barry Nussbaum, you say that a majority of Americans think Biden is not going to finish even one term, and that's a bad thing.
Right. There's three polls that have been taken, generalistic polls among all voting groups, and there's an astounding number. I mean, it's between 52 and 59. I actually saw one at 61%. Get this, they don't believe among Republicans, Democrats, and unaffiliated independents that Joe Biden can finish 4 years. Why? Everybody, I mean, everyone maybe except his family, has seen the fact he has declining mental facilities and his faculties are dropping, whether it's dementia, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's just age, and he's losing it. People are all saying the same thing. He's not even a one-term president. Why is that important? It's incredibly important because for the first time, people are looking at the vice president as more than a figurehead that goes to ribbon cuttings and the person who greets the president of Ecuador or something like that a lesser country because the president is busy with serious business. And when you have a vice president that you think is going to be president who's ferociously left-wing. Listen, the nonprofits that are unaffiliated that are ranking the Senate, get this, Jamie, there's 100 senators. The most progressive, liberal, left-wing senator sitting in the Congress today, not Joe Biden, not Elizabeth Warren, not Bernie Sanders, the number one most left-wing, scary, progressive is Kamala Harris. Mm-hmm. And that becomes critical because the majority of Americans, and I don't mean Republicans, I mean all Americans, including the majority of Democrats, think she would be president before 4 years is up. So the Biden-Harris ticket is really about both of them, and that's rare.
Thank you so much, Barry. And look, you just helped with finishing up also and touching on number 4, because number 4 was connected to number 3 in the sense that number 4 is that many people are scared to death of Kamala Harris's left-wing policies that you have already told us about. And now, last but not least, your 5th reason, Barry, is that the more the crazies riot, the more Trump becomes the law and order president. And we see BLM and Antifa tearing up the country. You're saying that that helps Donald Trump in the election.
Of everything I've said now, up till now, what I'm going to tell you next is the most important. People want to feel safe. They, especially in their own home. The Democrats finished their convention last week, Jamie. There was no mention of rioting. There was no mention of violence. There was no mention of the fact that Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Detroit, Minneapolis, New York are being burned and looted, and innocent whites and blacks and women and children are being brutalized, and the life savings of business owners are being destroyed. How in the world can that be ignored? It is a catastrophe, the likes of which the country has never seen like this before. Every one of the cities I've just mentioned is controlled by a progressive Democrat. Every one of the states vote Democrat every major election, and they're tied to the Democrat platform. And now the Democrat platform doesn't have law and order. So for the rest of the country, Jamie, that wants to be secure in their beds at night, they have no choice. They may dislike Donald Trump personally, they may dislike his personality, but he sends in the troops and the rioting stops. And when the bottom line gets looked at, do you feel safe at night in Portland? Oh my God, no. Do you feel safe at night in LA? No. Do you feel safe at night in these other cities? Of course you don't. You're going to vote for the guy that's going to bring the cops and, if necessary, the National Guard. And I think if the Republican Party hits voters over the head for the next 2 months, you've got a landslide on your hands.
Thank you so much, Barry Nussbaum. You have inspired me personally, and I'm cracking open the champagne very early this evening when I get home. Thank you for giving us your predictions of why Trump will win. Barry, right before we go, guaranteed, we have so many people on the edge of their seats right now on their couches, and they're just so inspired by you, and they're wondering how can they find the American Truth Project? How can they help and support a great guy like Barry Nussbaum? Where do they go?
I'm humbled by your introduction, and I appreciate it. There's 2 ways, really simple, Jamie. If they take out their cell phones and they text the word truth and they send it to 88202 on a cell phone and push send, 88202, the word truth, you'll be subscribed. You'll get all of our shows, including my segment with the great Jamie Glazov, or they can go to our website, AmericanTruthProject.org, and sign up there. You'll get everything the same way. Either way, we don't charge for content. Everything we do is free. We're supported by donations, and thank you for the opportunity to share today.
And thank you. And Barry, on the most serious note, thank you so much for who you are and for what you're doing. Keep it up. And thank you for coming on the Glazov Gang.
Anytime. Take care.
Thank you. And we will see you soon. And until then, make sure you are visiting AmericanTruthProject.org every 5 minutes. We'll see you soon. Good night.